well, and I hope you're all keeping well. I hope life is being good to you. The weather has been very good to us here. Finally, we have a real summer in Ireland. Well, it feels like it. A bit of sunshine and a bit of heat. We had 2 days of very strange, cold Arctic wind. The sun was in the sky. It was blazing, and there was just like someone had a gun that fired cold air, just blasting over the country, and you had this beautiful blue sun in the sky. Just very, very strange. But I see I left the chat on by mistake. I don't have my glasses, so I can't answer. But hello, everybody. I can see love hearts and I can see hands clapping. So thank you for that, smiley faces. Always, always appreciate the love. So, what's happening lately is, since my last video, you seem to have struck a chord with you. The video about how Russia has now moved into the dominant position in the world. And that's just it, The United States has fallen to number 2, which is, I still find quite incredible. And we all know why. Incompetent mediocrity in the West. Now, we've been dealing with this mediocrity for a long time. And they use propaganda to big themselves up. And often lies. Like, I'll give you one. Do you remember those of you who are old enough to remember the 80s, remember the panic about the ozone layer? And there was all bullshit stories in the paper that kids in New Zealand had to wear all jumpsuits and gloves and masks when they went to play outside because the ozone layer was frying New Zealand kids. And the ozone layer, we didn't stop it by 2050. The human race would be wiped out because the ozone layer protects us from radiation from the sun. Well, lo and behold, so some MIT scientists said that the cause of the ozone layer was the use of CFCs, which were propellants used in aerosol cans. So, and they were not only used in aerosol, they were used in all kinds of industrial processes as well. And these CFCs were floating up to the upper atmosphere, getting stuck at the North and South poles, and causing the ozone layer to form a hole. Well, this, at the time, didn't seem to make a lot of sense to me, and still doesn't. But science gave them an answer, right? And so they started banning CFCs out of spray cans. And the ozone layer got smaller, and then they tried to claim, well, that's how we fixed the ozone layer. We banned CFCs. But the thing is, if those particles were trapped up there, they would have never went away. The hole would have never been repaired. You'd have to find a way to get up there to actually remove the CFCs, and they never did that. And the hole of the North and South Pole got better by itself. And then they discovered, it's a secular event, a natural occurrence, that every so often the ozone layer hole opens up and then it closes. Probably something to do with the sun or its solar cycles. But of course, they did not retract their theory that they had fixed it by banning aerosols. Now, like I said, that those CFCs wouldn't have vanished into space. They would have remained in the upper atmosphere, so the holes wouldn't have got naturally smaller. The CFCs had nothing to do with the hole in the ozone layer. It was a crock of shit, but it would allow them to open up their first scientific treatise that, in order to deal with what they call a global crisis. So they have the global crisis, then you have the science, and then you have the measures taken based on the science, which don't have any real effect on anything. We see with the climate change thing. That's a classic problem reaction solution Hegelian dialect right there. and of course the Rona being the absolute classic. And that was to be their Mac Daddy, like I said in the other video. But what happened was they uh, they forgot that Russia is not a pussy state, and they went into Ukraine and caused and destroyed their plans and brought us back to ground zero. Now, I want to make this is not a follow up to that video, but like, don't be thinking that we're going to have a utopia now. We're heading towards a pretty severe global recession caused predominantly by the Rona. Now, I'm not particularly bothered by this global recession because the world's economic well-being is a basket case. There's no real economy out there. It's all things like IT companies taking control of everything and selling our personal information. It's all the kind of things like that. There's no real economy in the West, particularly, and the the the, the cost of property and homes is wildly inflated. So to say the crash could be planned, I have no problem with people believing that, but also it's not planned. I don't think, because there will be resulting chaos. Now, they will try to implement police states or something, whatever. I don't think there's going to be like a big collapse or anything like that. I think it'll get back to, it'll just suck, you know. It'll just suck, and they're already stopping the world. Have you noticed that? Like the the trains in England, in the UK, the airport havoc everywhere. And now you have in France, Macron has implemented heat wave lockdowns. This is a new one, heat wave lockdowns. This, so you lock down. They're desperate to lock us down in any way they can. Because it's like the Stanford prison experiment. They're the prison guards, and we're the prisoners. And they're gaslighting, bullying us, psychologically terrorizing us, rewarding prisoners who work with the guards and squeal on the other prisoners, and this kind of thing. So it really is. It's not hyperbole to say we're living in a prison planet. All the freedoms we have, they weren't handed to us benevolently by the aristocrats. Our ancestors had to kill to actually get them. And people don't fully understand. Like I was talking to some chap there about the SNP in Scotland. Now, while I don't see any reason, and of course it's quite understandable that like Scottish people might want a free nation with their own self-determination and everything, but when you look who's behind it, the Nicola Sturgeon and the SNP, what you're left with is like this monstrous woke lunacy. And it's almost like she exists to make Scottish independence impossible. And so did the SNP. For instance, the SNP, they say that Scottish oil will, finance an independent Scotland. But at the same time, the SNP then has a big project to divest from fossil fuels and oil. So which is it? You're going to pay for Scotland with oil, or you're not? And of course they'll whip out some bullshit, say, well, the future is renewables. Actually, it's not. It's been terrible. Renewables are awful. They don't work. They're like, they're just nonsense, and there's nothing there. But like every day, I go through two things. I read the news every day when it comes up on my feed, on my news feed on Facebook, and I have two reactions. Are they taking the piss, or are they mad? And you know me, more and more I'm inclined to think they're mad. And everyone looking for a savior. Everyone looking for a savior. Elon Musk is going to save you. This guy is going to save you. No one will actually save themselves. No one wants to do that. Now, I saw an article today of a 12-year-old boy in Ireland who just dropped dead. He was out with his parents. He complained about a headache. Perfectly healthy, fine kid. His mother thought that he was just goofing off because he didn't want to go to school the next day. And she gave him a Calpol, which is like a sleeping aid for young kids. And he didn't wake up the next day. Two doctors so far and coroners have actually said the reason for the kid just suddenly dropping dead is inconclusive. Now you and I, and the tribe, we know exactly what happened to that poor child. And the globalist psychopaths know what happened to that child. It was it had to have been the needlecraft. But these animals also know that a parent is going to go to enormous lengths to deny that they probably killed their own child by having them subjected to a medical treatment that wasn't fully tested. And they know that the average parent will go to tremendous levels to deny that. And understandably so, because it's a very dark place to go. And I think that's one of the main reasons why the whole suddenly and unexpectedly thing is not getting any traction, is because it's holding up an appalling vista to parents that they simply can't go there. Like, they did everything the man told them to do, and now deep down inside, lots of them are thinking that they're on denial. They're in great levels of denial that if my kid goes because of the needlecraft, ultimately is my failure as a parent. Or if the parents die and leave the kids as orphans. These are very dark things that the already stressed out normal population is dealing with before we even go here. The suddenly and the unexpectedlies are literally wiping out suburbia as we speak and raging havoc in suburbia. Because suburbia is where they went to, where they became needlecrafted as a status symbol. I was talking to somebody and they said they got back from San Francisco and nearly everyone on the street there was wearing a mask. And she said she figured out that the reason why is that the mask in liberal and left-wing parts of America, wearing the mask proves you're not a Trump voter. It's almost like the anti-MAGA hat. This is how insane the normies are. I'm not just putting on Americans, all over the world. This is how insane they've become. And I think a huge part of this insanity is a primal fear of accepting the truth, because the one thing they don't want to do is take responsibility for their own lives. They don't want to take any responsibility for their own lives. And I would absolutely bet you that's what's really going on with that bunch. And it's this primal terror, a primal fear underneath all this. Because even things like virtue signaling, there's a primal fear there when you think about it, isn't it? It's like, oh, I want to be with the winning team, so I virtue. That's not the same kind of. In the past, suburban primal fears were like, we don't have the right car, or the right front lawn, or we have to keep up with the Joneses. Well, keeping up with the Joneses today, it's driven by the primal fear of not being seen as being pro-science and this kind of thing. When I say pro-trusted science would be the word I should really use. And also virtue signaling is all about, a fear that you won't be seen as wonderful. Even when dog is rat is tearing your life asunder. You have to pretend that it's all wonderful and good. Even when Ahmed is knobbing your son on the stairs, you can't say anything about him. That's how it is. That's how it is. Now I saw that the deputy prime minister of Ireland, Leo Varadkar, took in a pet Ukrainian. How and it pays to have like friends on the inside, because he managed to get one that wasn't dog as rat, and so he made sure that he got one that wasn't dog as rat, and so it pays to have connections in high places, doesn't it? Now, we are facing an economic collapse, we are facing a global major recession, and we are facing things like food shortages. Now, I am not a doom pimp, okay? Good name for a band, that, the Doom Pimps. But I am not a doom pimp. And I don't think my audience, for the most part, are doom johns who want doom. Now, you see, the thing is that doom is not a game I play for two reasons. One, I don't like to put a sense of helplessness out there, because it's not helpless. You can change things, but you don't change them on the societal level by hoping that everyone is wonderful. But you will change them by spreading knowledge, and you'll change yourself inside and how you react to them. So, in that sense, doom is important. It's good to get those YouTube channels and podcasts that tell you about what the worst plans of the globalists are and so on. It's important to get that stuff, okay? But it's a tool. It's not a final destination. When you hear doom, you say to yourself, how do I avoid doom, right? So you're on a sinking Titanic, right? And they say, well, we're going down, stand up and we'll get you a lifeboat. And you're standing up and then you realise after a while there isn't enough lifeboats being launched to rescue your ass. So that's doom. But then you look at something else. What you do with some of the staff of the Titanic is they went and found things that could float, like deck chairs. And they tried to make rudimentary rafts. Now, you might not survive. They might not float very well, but they might just be enough to keep you alive. Enough of your body out of the frigid water to keep you alive. So that was doom, but doom being used as a tool, not doom being used as an end point, destination, as a full stop. Doom is a way for you to evolve. And you evolve by how creativity and proactive measures. That's how you do it. And that's how you avoid doom, okay? Now, doom should not be taken I know it's when you watch like some of the news reports that are delivered and some of the stuff that's going on in this world, you go, Jesus Christ, what a loony bin we're stuck in. But you don't leave it at that. You find solutions. When Leo Varadkar said at the top of the pandemic here last year that we'll probably never be able to go away ever again. And I said, well, fuck that, I'm going to find a way. And I did, through the ferry services in Northern Ireland. I was able to get into the UK with any kind of test or anything. And that was a solution. That was a solution to the doom that he was offering. So there's always a way. There's always a way around it. Now, regarding you out there who are watching this that maybe have taken the transubstantiation of the sacred needlecraft. Well, if you just got the first 1 and 2, if you did not, leave the planet after them, you're probably fairly safe. It seems, by an initial reaction that they were giving, it seems to be that the death, the suddenly and unexpected, they come from the foghorn leghorn, and I'm sure the boy I say boy, So if you only took 2, I think you're pretty safe. If you took 3, I think you should be worried. And I think a lot of people didn't take the 3rd one. I think that a lot of people out there have not got the third one. And I think that was a wise move. That'll be seen to be a wise move on their behalf. Now, they can't hold down the lid on this transubstan. It's been shown now that 96% of the people now in hospital on air balloon are all needle crafted up to the foghorn, leghorn, and boy, I say boy. And so they can only, and then you have like young people, sudden and death syndrome, and you can see a lot of cynicism on the articles and papers. People saying, "Well, we know this person died, or we don't know how to say it." So you're seeing a lot of quiet mutterings going on among the peasantry, among the normies, and our job, you should be very grateful right now that you resisted taking the divine transubstantiation of sacred needlecraft. But I would I would wait and hold out, like I always say, and see what happens going forward.